Monaco, and I said, leave it with me, I'll see what I can... Let's see how nimble my fingers need to be tonight.
Yeah, well, we've both had a lot of experience in Monaco. None of it as we started Q2. However, it is still showing on the left-hand side that he's out of the session. So we'll see if he does go out on track, see if he's able to go and set himself a time. You missed last week, of course, as did I. And it saw the debut of the team of Danger David and Herman. And if there is ever going to be a gladiator of a team, it is going to be those two, isn't it?
Yeah. What more can you say, mate? Herman, we've said it all in the races in which we've commentated on since he joined. He's been a phenomenal addition to this league.
He will not be here next week, which makes it very different and very interesting from 1st to 20th, I guess, as opposed to from 2nd to 20th for a change. But yeah, the top two drivers in the Drivers' Championship at the moment are not with a seat. So you've got first place is Herman, second place is Pleasant Snake, and neither of them have got a permanent seat. So there's a good argument for both of them there heading into season 13 to have themselves a seat, I guess, isn't there? As we see one car, as we're just watching Danger David now in purple in Sector 1, as we have just started Q2. We saw one car in the wall there, and I believe it is one of the Williams that's in the wall, and I think it is Formula 1 Faru, who's just reversed back onto track to make his way around. But yeah, just to mention to you there, he doesn't have a seat, neither does Pleasant Snake, so it's a good argument for both of them, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I've got a question for you. Where is Sandman?
Sandman is unable to make it today, so the McLaren of Tobolenzin is flying solo for... I don't really know what the nickname is to give us anymore. We're so inconsistent, you never really know. Danger David slowed down to let a couple of cars pass despite getting purple in Sector 1, so he's not happy with the time that he was setting, maybe through the tyres that he was setting as well, as Evo goes quickest in 1:12.128. The times that were being set are very ridiculous in comparison to what me and you set. I mean, we're more than happy if we get under 2 minutes. Yet some of these times are 1:11, 1:10. They're literally all over the place, these times. I think the slowest time we had was a 1:16 by the end of qualifying. So there you go, an RS0121, as if to illustrate my point, takes a 1:11.9. So some very strong times to kick things off. Red Bull second in the Constructors' Championship, and as I say, there's some strong times. Formula 1 Faro brings me back down to reality with a 1:48.3, letting me know that I'm actually not completely bad at this track. Peter Caspi and T-Bran out of this qualifying session. The pit straight opens up DRS, and he sets a time of 1 minute and 18 seconds, .882, making it 4th and 5th place for the Alpines as it stands at the moment. Of course, this is only second qualifying session, and anybody outside of the top 10 will be eliminated at this point. We're on board with Toxic CZ10, who's gone purple in Sector 1 in the Alfa Romeo, making his way through, we'll call it Skinner's Corner, as we know he likes to park up there and cause lots of disqualifications. We have already actually seen a disqualification in qualifying, and that was Pleasant Snake for dangerous parking.
It's a bit of a shame, really. You mentioned that Sandman wasn't able to make it, therefore... was it Veriduco he said was going solo? I can't remember who he said was going solo, but it's a shame that I wasn't asked to be drafted in and back up. Yeah, as a backup, maybe I could have parked up and caused that chaos. I wonder how it would have gone down in the Discord chat. I'm going to guess not very well, but it would have been a laugh at least, wouldn't it?
I don't think you'd have been invited back. I think that would have been a game, set and match for you, and I think it's very understandable. I think one of the reasons we don't play it anymore is something like that. I think the third member of our trio stopped playing. Something along those lines is a reason, so we'll leave it at that as we are on board with Quan in the Williams. Opens up DRS onto the pit straight. He's going to set a 1:13.7, so the Williams in 4th and 6th place at the moment. Not bad times being set all around. Racing Wheel just a little bit further out on a 1:17.5. Alright, Veriduco goes past the checkered line, which means... Hey, don't. It's not even close to the time for that song. That song always makes me think of Love Actually. So I don't like listening to it. Love me. There you go. Yeah, I don't really like listening to that as we are still quite away from Christmas. Tobolenzin, anyway, is out on his outlap, flying solo for the McLaren, currently in 14th place, going through Sector 3 as it stands. Veriduco we were on board with, but he's gone red throughout his lap, which means it's been invalidated. So we've had a lot of invalidated lap times, and I know a lot of that usually comes from cutting corners or, going wide on corners and all tyres going off the track. It's very difficult to get a time penalty for cutting corners, apart from on one occasion in Monaco, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, mate.
Are you alright?
Yeah, sorry, it's had some helium. Don't know what happened then. Sorry about that.
Well, he's gone purple in Sector 1 anyways. He's going through Sector 2 at the moment. As I say, flying solo for the McLarens. 1:16 is the slowest time on track at the moment, which is Racing Wheel, who is currently in 9th place on a 1:16.288. Tobelenzen, of course, going purple in Sector 1, could compete with some of these top times. A freak time like a 1:12 could actually see him through to Q3, and the McLaren upset a couple of odds there as well. Herman is now out on a time lap. The current championship leader and his teammate, the defending champion, is actually Tobelenzen's gone purple in Sector 2 as well. So if he can carry this momentum round onto the pit straight, he's in a very good position to maybe upset some of the front runners as he goes just almost into the wall, goes on to DRS opening. He's got 1:11.8 to beat, and he sets a 1:13.5 despite fastest sectors 1 and 2. Didn't quite keep that time up in Sector 3, so will be disappointed to see himself down in 6th place, but nonetheless gets himself through to the 3rd qualifying session. The two favourites for the race, or the team favourite for the race, should I say, will of course be the Mercedes. Danger David and Herman working together, and neither of those have set a time yet. Neither has Verdugo, who's out there in the hat in 11th place at the moment. It does look like T-Bran and Peter Caspi are going to be unable to rejoin this session, so they should be good for the race. No formation lap once again, but it does mean that they are unlikely to be participating in Q3, or in fact they won't be participating in Q3 as we have 6.5 minutes left to go. Purple through Sector 2 is Danger David. 1:11.8 is the time to beat, and he's going to set a 1:12.3, and that's only good enough for 4th place for him. And it's just that case again, isn't it? The 3rd sector seems to be letting a lot of these drivers down.
It's tough, mate, and I found that quite similar when I was driving around the track, where you think you're going quite well and you come out of that tunnel and it can completely mess up. Your lap, really. It's tough, mate. It is, and Sector 3, I'd definitely say, would be the hardest. You've got that thought in your head that you're getting towards the end, you're really trying to nail it, and you don't quite hit the line properly, and it'll set you off for a good 3 or 4 corners, and it's really hard to readjust without just pretty much putting yourself to a stop to get your sort of car lined up to where you want to be. So yeah, that's definitely the hardest part of the track for me, especially with the tight corners as well. It's like I said, if you go slightly off somewhere, it's very hard to still be able to go full speed and be able to readjust at the same time. So, Aggie, question for you, mate. Obviously, we've had the United States, or the first of 3, not the actual first in terms of the calendar, but the first United States race there was, which is in Austin, Texas, this past weekend. Max Verstappen with another win. Lewis Hamilton and was it Charles Leclerc both disqualified after the race due to technical issues or something like that. Who out of these drivers do you think could join in real life and potentially shake up the pack and make it a bit more of an entertaining race?
That is a great question. I know obviously driving on a video game is very different to driving in real life, but if you've ever seen some of we see it in the Discord, or at least I do. I don't know if you actually look at the Discord, but when you look at it, these drivers are posting their setups, and it's the full everything. They've got the wheel, they've got the screen. It's almost like they've got their own car designs as well for the teams that they're racing for. So it's absolutely incredible to give them that sort of impact. I think you've got to look at the likes of Herman, Danger David. I know he's not here at the moment, but Sandman, drivers like that are consistently fighting towards the front. I think there's got to be a shout out there as well for Pleasant Snake, for RS0121, drivers that are there or thereabouts competing with some of these front runners. I wouldn't say any of them are set to obviously go and compete with your Max Verstappens or your Landos and your Lewises, but towards the back of the grid, I think with the understanding of how the track works and that sort of thing, I think it's a very good starter for them to be in such a very good position. What's your thoughts?
Herman, move on.
That it? Just Herman?
That's it. Why do I need to say any more?
Well, I weren't sure if there were more than just one driver.
Maybe so, but I like me. I like to commit to one. I'm committing to one.
I think you've got a new favourite driver. After Danger David and Di Perez won the Constructors' Championship for Red Bull last season, you've turned your back on them both already.
Yeah, well, they both left Red Bull, didn't they? So Quincy's my new favourite. We talked to him, don't we? So he got us into the league. So Quincy's my new favourite, and I'm on board with him now. Currently on an outlap, currently in 10th place, so holds the last spot. 3 minutes left, the last spot, and you would think that with 3 drivers behind him, all looking like they'll want to try and get into Q3, he's going to want to improve on his current best time of 13.993. He's got about half a second gap between him and Tarkan Gino, and an even bigger gap between him and Veriduco and Racing Wheel. But Quincy, as he approaches Sector 3 of his outlap, ready to start that hot lap, he's got to go all in, to secure that place in Q3.
Yeah, you've kind of got to chuck a little bit of caution to the wind, haven't you? In these scenarios, I think, because it's not classed as career on the actual game, if you crash out in Sector 2, in Q2, but your time is good enough for Q3, you make it through to Q3, because that's the way the game works. I am on board with Tarkan Gino, the one that could actually upset Quincy and put him into the elimination zone as it stands at the moment. He's on a 1:14.4, making his way under the tunnel. Behind him is Veriduco out on an outlap at the moment, and Racing Wheel 027. So he needs a very convincing time with two drivers behind him out there setting times, but he's also got to beat his own time. We're on 1 minute 47 seconds left, which means we aren't too far away from seeing these opportunities disappear from 4th all the way down to 9th place. Very risky strategy from Quan and from Quincy to not be out there setting times at the moment, as Tarkan Gino's time does go red, and we'll wait and see just where that goes from him. Quincy's actually retired from the session on a 1:13.9, which means it's over to Tarkan Gino and Veriduco and potentially even Racing Wheel to try and take that away from him. We're on board now with Veriduco, who's making his way through. In fact, yeah, we'll stay on board with Veriduco because RS0121 is ahead of him, but he's just set a timed lap and headed back into the pits, ready for Q3. Ivor, with a fantastic time of 1:11.2, sets him into second place. Herman, of course, out in first at the moment with 1 minute 10. That time is unmatchable, isn't it? Surely.
6/10 quicker. It'd be very tough. You do see in actual Formula 1 that those sort of pole laps are sub 1:10, so it'd be interesting to see. Try and remember that time as best you can. 1:10.6. Will the pole lap be even quicker than that, and will we see a sub 1:10 lap in Q3? I'd be very surprised, and it'd have to be phenomenal. I hope I'm on board with whoever does that if they do that, but yeah, it's going to be very hard. Tarkan Gino just got into Sector 3 and is currently 3/10 slower in his fastest lap, so with 22 seconds left should get another chance at a lap, but that will be one and done. The final countdown, one lap to get into Q3. Now drop down into 12th with Veriduco doing a 14.3, which is still not fast enough to get into Q3, and Tarkan Gino very fast into that first corner, and you've got to say now that's completely ruined all chances, and he's slowing down. So yeah, Tarkan Gino will not be able to get a better lap and will be out in Q2. And Racing Wheel is currently going into the pits because, again, nowhere near beating it. Just on board with Veriduco, has got a chance at setting a quicker time, try and find 4/10 to knock Quincy out, take that final spot to go into Q3, but going into Sector 2, 2/10 slower, so he is going to have an unbelievable Q2 and 3 to be able to set a faster time and find the difference between what is currently set and what Quincy has delivered. So it does look like the 10 drivers going into Q3 will be Herman, Ivor, RS, Trugster, Danger David, Formula 1 Farah, Turbulenzen, Toxic, Quan and Quincy. Assuming that is the 10 drivers, who is your favourite for pole?
Yeah, Veriduco's time's invalidated, so he's not going to be able to beat his time anyway, and the checkered flag is now up, which means his time, he can't go back out there to try and set a quicker time, and that should conclude the second qualifying session. I think you've got to put Herman up there, haven't you, as the favourite or one of the favourites to walk away with pole position. I think Danger David's got to be up there. I know he's in 5th place at the moment, but I like RS0121. I think the thing with Monaco is a lot of it goes down to strategy. A lot of people say, where you start is where you finish, and that's absolutely right. But you've also got to take into account the strategy that some of these drivers are going to have to employ, depending on what happens during the race. We know that there's a lot of chaos that can come forward in Monaco. We've already been given the heads up that we should probably take into account how many wing changes there's going to be, how many safety cars there's going to be. I think the most we've had, I said it at the beginning, I think the most we've had 7 within a race. Yeah. I think we might be looking at that being beaten today. I don't think we've actually covered a Monaco race in the All Assist Soft League, so this is the make or break for all of it, isn't it? But Verdugo, Tarcangino, Racing Wheel, Peter Caspi all leave in the second qualifying round, and they will of course be joined by Tibran, who also didn't set a time, so that's 14th and 15th place for Tibran and Peter Caspi respectively. I think for me the top 3 we're going to see is Herman, Danger David, and I'm going to go with RS0121, seeing as Pleasant Snake isn't there. What's your expectation? What's your prediction? Nope. Okay, we'll just move on then. That's no problem at all. Okay, so we'll go into the third qualifying session. Just been made aware that he will actually be back in a few minutes' time after asking me that question. So we'll find out from him who his favourite is. And if we are towards the end of the third qualifying session, what we'll do instead is we'll find out who his favourite is to go ahead and win this race. So it's Danger David, RS0121, Evil 32, Formula 1 Farah, Toxic CZ10, Tobalenzen, Quan, Herman, Trugster and Quincy. That makes up your 10 drivers, which means at the end of this 12 minutes, whoever is at the top will start on pole position for a 50% race of Monaco, unless we have to stop due to incidents resulting crashes or anything like that, or red flags that could see the race to an end. Of course, new in this game is the red flags. We haven't seen one yet, touch wood, in the All Assist Soft League, but it is a possibility as we are on board with Danger David. We're going to jump off board with him, though, onto board with Formula 1 Farah, who is the first driver out on track, which means he'll be the first one to cross the line with a timed lap in the Williams. His teammate in 7th place at the moment. We've lost some very strong drivers. Remember, the time that was set at the end of Q2 was a 1 minute 10.624 that was set by Herman, the current leader of the Drivers' Championship, and we'll see if he manages to top that heading into this. So, this is the 3rd time this season that Herman has been in the Mercedes, and if he wins, he could go 3 for 3 in the Mercs, but also 3 wins in a row, which again shows the dominance that he's brought to this league. Formula 1 Farah took his maiden pole position by a 10th in Monza. He'll be hoping to build on that this week, and that's who we are on board with at the moment going through Sector 3. This is an outlap. We do have 7 of the 10 cars out on outlaps at the moment. Tobalenzen, Quan and Herman are the 3 that are remaining in the pits for now. 10 minutes to go, so it's taken almost 2 minutes for a lot of these cars to make their way around, and the first car to go past the stop-start line and start his timed lap is the Williams of Formula 1 Farah, hoping to go back-to-back with pole positions. A 10th separated him last week. He's been very close in the top 5 in Q1 and Q2. He'll be hoping to repeat that, if not better it, in Q3 as well. Going through Sector 1, expect this to be a purple Sector 1 as well. Of course, it is. 18.966 going through into Sector 2. Big airpin coming up here. You've got to slow down a lot to get yourself ready for this one. And he's done that and taken it very smoothly, allowed the car to just roll around the corner into the tunnel that we get. Of course, it can throw you off completely with the lighting of the tunnel, very different to that out on track at the moment. We've got a couple of cars moving to one side there as well, the McLaren and his teammate in the Williams. Of course, Tobalenzen and Quan moving to one side. Them 2 and Herman now make up the final 3 out on outlaps. Unsurprisingly, Formula 1 Farah does go purple in Sector 2. Absolutely nailing the pace going down through Sector 3 at the moment with these last couple of corners onto the pit straight. to set himself onto the provisional pole. He catches the back wing ever so slightly there and loses a bit of grip, and that could prove costly as it's a 1:11.583 as we jump on board with Danger David, who aborts his lap and goes into the pits. We've got a red lap for RS0121. Let's jump on board with Ivor, should I say, who sets a 1:11.2. These times are getting faster. They are much faster than these drivers were setting through Q1 and Q2, but they haven't beat the time that was set. They've got provisional pole at the end of Q2. We'll jump on board with Tobalenzen. In fact, everybody at the moment is looking like they've got red timed laps, so we'll jump on board with the Mercedes of Herman. His teammate was the second one out onto track and pitted at the end of his lap. So we are staying on board at the end of Sector 2. He loses a bit of his wing there going round that corner. Doesn't get purple in Sector 2. Continues going forward nonetheless. He's on 59 seconds now going into the final few corners. How much will that damage to his wing affect the time that he's going to be able to set? He stays out on track at the moment. Goes onto the pit straight. Takes DRS straight away. He's got 1:11.2 to beat. He sets a 1:12.1. Puts him in third place as it stands at the moment for Herman. So we'll jump on board with a couple of other drivers that I'm sure are out there now doing some time laps. That's Tobalenzen. He's got an invalidated lap time. So is Kwan. We'll jump on board then with RS0121 in the Red Bull going through Sector 2 at the moment. He's the next one that will be able to set a timed lap for us here in the third qualifying session of the Monaco Grand Prix. 7.5 minutes left to go. Set the best times that you can. Some of these times are much quicker than what being set by the individual driver in the first and second qualifying session, but this is where we really get to see the pace. An almost empty track 90% of the time. A little bit of a spin there from the back end of RS0121. He manages to keep it on track and he goes fourth quickest with a 1:12.070. So we've got Danger David, who aborted his lap to go back into the pits. We've got Truckster there at a 1:30.187. Tobalenzen, we'll jump on board with him making his way through Sector 2 at the moment, as we are rejoined by Skin. So as it stands at the moment, Evor32 is out in provisional pole.
He is, mate, on an 11.2, which is 6/10 slower than the time that Herman set in Q2. We said to keep an eye out for that time, a 10.6. Herman has just gone into the pits having set a 12.1, so a second and a half behind his fastest time in Q2. So a lot of difference to be made. You've got to assume he's gone into pit and then wait for the track to free up a little bit. Some little bits of traffic here and there throughout those first laps on the track. I'm just on board with Trugster at 1:30. So in and around the kind of times that we're used to setting on hot laps, but certainly not up to his usual standards or the standards expected of any driver in this league. And he is flying around at the moment, going around the penultimate corner now, past the pit entrance, round the last corner, and will comfortably, as he hits DRS, beat that time and set nearly a crash there, a 1:11.3, which puts him into second place. Less than a tenth slower than Evor32. So a fantastic second lap there from Trugster, but nearly some absolute chaos. Not sure exactly who it was that was coming out of the pit there. It might have been Danger David. Trugster had set that time and gone absolutely flying into Danger David. You've got to assume that he would have been out. So yeah, 5 minutes left. Evor32 currently with provisional pole. Trugster in second. Toxic third. Formula 1 Farah fourth. RS0121 up in fifth. And Herman and Danger David, the two front runners in recent weeks, both on an out lap and currently sitting in 6th and 9th place. And you've got to assume that between now and 5 minutes' time, those positions are going to change.
Yeah, well, Danger David's just pulled up to the side to allow Herman through, as you say, both on their out laps, maybe create a little bit of space between the two of them. I will let you know that Herman's time was hugely affected by the loss of a front right part of his wing. So since we said, of course, or I said, there's been no damage, and touch wood that was the case, the old commentator's curse has turned up, and we've had two incidents. Kwan heading into the pits caught his wing, but allowed him to continue into the pits after his car was reset. And of course Herman taking the front right off of his car. Other than that, was setting a very good time. I think it happened partway through Sector 2, so it impacted his Sector 2 time, and of course massively impacted Sector 3, but he was on for a very good time. Otherwise, we know he's just started his time lap, but we, for now, on my stream, will remain on board with Danger David, simply because Danger David David is yet to actually set a timed lap as he's going through Sector 1. There's quite a bit of different distance between the two Mercedes drivers at the moment. We'll actually just jump on board with Herman as Formula 1 Faro goes 1 minute 10.531. Wow. The potential to go back-to-back poles beats and absolutely obliterates the time that Herman set in the second qualifying sector. You said yourself, Skin, let's keep an eye out for that 1 minute 10.6. 1 minute 10.5. How does that suit you?
Fantastic. And that, if it does end up being the pole lap, is a well-deserved pole lap. A fantastic time, like you said, a tenth quicker than that time that we were discussing in Q2. But Herman is absolutely flying around at the minute, going 4 tenths quicker after 2 sectors. If he can keep that up, that'll be 6 tenths quicker, and it will still not be enough to put him in pole. And I think it would keep him out of the top 3. So let's see, about to cross the line now. Herman sets a 1:10.4. What a sector 3 there. He's gone 1.7 seconds quicker, and at the end of sector 2 we're tracking at 4 tenths quicker, so has managed to find over a second in time in sector 3. What a lap.
That's inhumane. To have 2 drivers on 1 minute 10s in Monaco is out of this world. But we are on board with Danger David, who's just set a 1:11.4, which is only good enough for 6th place from him. But we know that Danger David's strength is not in qualifying, but it is during race environments where he's building himself up from towards the back, and he did that last week from 14th place at the end of an incident at the end of lap 1 in Monza, to make it all the way up into a 2nd place finish. By that point, I think Herman was already on the plane to Monaco and he'd already finished the race. So there you go. It talks volumes of how these two are working together. And Danger David currently in 6th place. So let's jump on board with Quan, who's on a timed lap at the moment. He did set a 1:26, but it was invalidated. So this is his time lap now, going through Sector 1. The only driver in Q3 that hasn't actually yet set a time lap. Formula 1 Farah, if he is going to try and beat the time that Herman set and get himself into pole position, he's going to have to be quick to get himself out of the pits. The only driver in the pits at the moment, Herman is heading back in there. We're on board with Quan, who's making his way through Sector 2 and under the tunnel and under the bridge at the moment. Formula 1 Farah is now on an outlap, which means everybody will be out on track, and Herman will not have time to go and beat or try and beat his time, or a time that could be better than his, set by anybody else. So it'd be interesting to see if Formula 1 Farah can upset the odds and get himself back-to-back pole positions in the Williams, as Quan makes his way through Sector 3 and just passes the DRS detection zone. Last couple of corners onto the pit straight, we'll be able to open up DRS immediately, and does so. 1 minute 10.4 is the time to beat. He's already behind that, but it seems where he's going to put himself. 1 minute 14 keeps him in 10th place at the moment, but it's still a very good response for him. Let's jump on board with Quincy's Tobble engine's gone into the pits. It's game over for the McLaren. The best he will get is 9th place, and I think that's where he's actually going to start from, as Quan has just finished his timed lap. We're on board at the moment with Quincy, who's got a time of 1 minute 10.4 to try and beat to get pole position. It'll be interesting to see if him or RS0121, who over the last couple of weeks has been very impressive at various different tracks, is in 7th place on a 1:12.0. Nearly 3 tenths separates the two drivers, the two Red Bull drivers, of course, Mercedes drivers last season. And Quincy goes round onto the pit straight, see how quickly he can activate DRS. Does it a little bit slower than what we saw a few minutes ago from Quan, and he's going to set a time of 1:16. That's not good enough to improve on his positioning. So let's jump on board with RS0121, who his time's going to be a 1:14. Again, not good enough to beat his time, as Danger David's gone into the pits. The best he can hope for now is 6th place. Let's jump on board with Toxic. His time's invalidated, which means the best he can hope for is 5th place. Let's sit with Truckster at the moment. I think just ahead of him we do have Ivor, and Formula 1 Farah is going to be the last one to cross the line. So let's jump on board with Ivor, who's going to be the next to cross the line. Just finishes Sector 2 26 seconds slower. That time's not going to be beaten. That's going to be a write-off for him. So let's go to Truckster in the AlphaTauri. In fact, no, let's go to Formula 1 Farah in the Williams then. 1 minute 10.4 to beat, and he's currently going a 10th quicker than his best time. In Sector 2, it's 0.013 on his best time, and he's going to need an absolute brainstorm of a corner here. He manages to take it, avoids the wall, opens up DRS. 1 minute 10.4, the time to beat. He's at a 1 minute 10.9, so back-to-back laps for Formula 1 Farah. That's within the 1 minute 10s, but it isn't good enough to put him on pole position. Herman takes pole position, kind of what we expected. I didn't get to get your prediction of who was going to start second and third place, but I'm going to say Danger David would have been up there for you.
Yeah, definitely, mate. A disappointing lap by his usual standards, and I'm sure he is disappointed in that as well. We know Monaco, as we've said already, we know how tough it is. We know how limited the overtaking opportunities are. So this has really played into Herman's hands now. If he can get ahead in those first couple of corners, it could be a comfortable race. But again, we say every single time we commentate, we think we've seen it all, and then something happens. And if anything can chuck up some chaos, it's definitely the track here in Monaco. So we'll see in the next few minutes. But should make for a good race. Do
you think we have the music rights to play You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet?
I would guess not, but better to ask for forgiveness than permission, they say, innit? So.
Well, yeah, a 1 minute 10.4 is the time that has been set as the best time in qualifying. Now, the interesting thing here is racers tend to show much quicker times, don't they, than what qualifying shows. So we'll see just if that time can be beaten that was set by Herman. He probably sat at the end of the second qualifying session saying just a repeat of what he did before should do it for him. I don't think even he expected Formula 1 Farah to be that close to him at the end of the third qualifying session. So in just a moment's time, race 5 of season 12 of the All Assists Off League gets underway with a 50% race in Monaco. Okay, we're just a few moments away from the race getting underway. So, Skin, I'll ask you now for your prediction. Who's going to finish first, second, and third?
It's a great question, mate. I'm going to have to stick with Herman winning the race. And then I'm going to put Evo in at second and RS in at third. What about you?
I'm going to go with Herman first. I think Danger David will get second. And I'm going to go against all odds, and I'm going to predict that the disqualification from the first qualifying session will be pushed completely to one side, and Pleasant Snake will get third place on the podium. It's going to be tough for him, but I think it's going to be a nice little battle that he'll very much relish in, just like we've seen Danger David do in the past. And I think the thing that you can't underestimate is the amount of safety cars that are known to be seen in Monaco, especially on stuff like video games and esports. You get to see any sort of incidents as requirement for a safety car. You look at how many yellow flags we just had throughout qualifying. There must have been close to 24. I know some of that's from drivers slowing down, but when it comes to collisions, incidents, a bit of debris left here or there, immediately they look towards safety cars, and it wouldn't surprise me if we even got to see, the first time that I've seen it in this game, a red flag.
I
I'm not
forgot
quite
that
sure
was
how it
actually.
works.
Yeah, I was going to say I forgot that was a feature in this game, because obviously we've said before we've hardly played it this year, so we haven't actually come across it yet, have we? And we haven't come across it when commentating on this league. So, yeah, whether or not it does actually kick in on an online league, I'm not sure. Would be interesting to see what would happen if it were to happen.
Yeah, so we're certainly going to be up for an interesting race. I hope you've got the material ready for when it gets to the 19th safety car of the afternoon, and we're still on lap 6 or something stupid like that, and we don't know what we're talking about. So
There's
I
no
have
change
absolutely
there.
nothing planned. Nothing planned for that moment. We're just waiting for drivers to take their places and, of course, their strategies to be perfected. Skin, what strategy are you going for in Monaco? We say that we normally start on soft, so it gives us the opportunity to go for the longevity tyres of medium or hard a little bit later on when the inevitable incident happens. Monaco will, of course, cause an incident at some point or another. This might be where we actually could get the strategy correct.
Yes, mate. My strategy, personally, I think for Monaco would be stick the oven on, stick a pizza in, and then jump in the car, do my bit, and be back in time for it to be done in about 15 minutes' time. So that tells you everything about my confidence with this track.
Okay, so what sort of, I'd say, how many casualties and how many drivers do you think won't be finishing this race? Let's go with that one, because I'm not going to get an answer from you on the other one.
6.
You think there's going to be 6 drivers not finishing this race?
Well, I don't know. It's just a complete guess, isn't it?
Are we going to see more casualties in this race than we are safety cars? We're about to find out as the lights are out, and here we go in Monaco. We have got the 5th race of season 12, and it's an excellent start from Herman going up into turn 1 just to block off Formula 1 Farah out onto a very long straight now with a couple of bends going around there for them. Herman keeps the lead ahead of Formula 1 Farah in 2nd place. Evil in 3rd as Danger David does his typical fall down to 7th place as RSO121 in the Red Bull makes it up into 6th. Racing Wheel is already out of the race. Is that a collision, Skin? You're the one that normally sees this, as we have only done 4 corners and we already have a virtual safety car.
Didn't see it, mate. I can only apologise. Obviously, just keeping an eye on the front of the track. So, yeah, I didn't see it.
There we go then. So we are on a virtual safety car. Of course, that doesn't mean that drivers have to go and catch up with the safety car. All this means is they have to slow themselves down. Herman holds the lead still. Formula 1 Farah in 2nd place. Evo in 3rd. Truckster in 4th. Toxic 5th. RSO121 in 6th. And Danger David falls to 7th place. Quincy in 8th. Tobelenzen in 9th. And Quan makes up your top 10. No changes from drivers getting into the top 10, or therefore falling out of the top 10 in turn 1. Pleasant Snake, though, in the space of those 4 corners, has moved himself up from 19th to 15th place. So it's making me feel a little bit more comfortable about the fact that I've just backed him to get himself onto the podium and compete even more. As DDB 890 actually overtook him, and I think that was still while the yellow flag was out, so I'm not sure if he's going to have to hand that position back as the flag goes away, and so does the VSC, and we're back underway with Herman setting on 128.9 at the end of lap 1. Of course, safety car assisted does mean that that time will no doubt be beaten as we proceed through the next 38 laps of this race. And we're just looking at how close other drivers are at the moment, and the closest we've got as it stands is Toxic knocking on the door of Truckster. We'll stay on board with him though, because just ahead of him is Evil 32, so there's a couple of cars very close, and this is where it really gets difficult when cars are compact together, isn't it? On this little bend that we're at the moment, that chicane where you kind of go back on yourself just a little bit lower down after losing a bit of the I'm trying to think of what the word is there, of course, when you go down, and I'm not sure, down the hill, turn left and go back on yourself on the chicane. At that point, at the hairpin even, at that point, you've got to be very careful, because if your car just trails for a little bit too long and rolls for a little bit too long, you're straight into the back of another car, and here it could prove damaging, couldn't it?
Yeah, 100%, mate. You can't switch off. You can't not quite be at the races. You've got to be, pun intended, you've got to be on the ball for every single second, mate, and that is why it's such a hard track, and it's why I can't do it at all because, as I mentioned, it requires some semblance of an attention span, and you and anyone else that knows me will know that is certainly by no way, shape or form my strong point. So yeah, you've got to be on the ball.
Yeah, I think people that have listened to us provide commentary of these races already know that your attention span tends to drift quite quickly, and safety cars, that's why I'm here to ask you questions, just to keep your mind focused on the race in hand. We are on board with RS0121 in 6th place at the moment, nearly collides with the back of Toxic. Just as we were mentioning, you can't allow your car to roll too much, nearly go straight into the back of the Alfa Romeo, but he manages to keep grip and continue pushing forward. There's a lot of cars that are losing the back end of their car ever so slightly when taking these corners. I don't know if that's because they're trying to turn late or brake late, or what it is he goes almost up the side ramp in there as well, but manages to keep his car on track in 6th place. Danger David gains 3 tenths in the last couple of laps on him though, but 2 tenths separates him from Toxic as it stands at the moment. He's getting ever closer. We are about a lap away from seeing, if it isn't already, the DRS being activated, and we are coming up onto the pit straight where DRS can be activated, and there's a spin straight into the wall goes RS0121. That's going to prove costly. He's lost the front wing, and as he's reversed back, he's damaged the back of his car as well. We'll see how costly that can be, but he's managed to move to the side and get himself into the pit. Thankfully for him, that incident was just before the pits, not after it. So RS0121 is our first injury, shall I say, that's had to go and he's retired. He's retired from the session as well, so the damage might have been too much for him. But RS0121 has retired whilst in the garages, so he's done it safely, he's done it the right way, but that's just from spinning going round onto the pit straight. So within the space of 4 laps, we have lost 2 cars already.
We certainly have, mate. Good start. I said, what was it, 6 did I say, or 7? I can't remember exactly, but looking up and down the track, I'm on board with, let's go on track with, we'll stay on board with Danger David, just coming out of the tunnel there, behind Toxic, not really in a position to overtake, and looking up and down, just very quickly jumping on board with Veriduco, also coming out of the tunnel, the closest driver on track to the car in front. Yeah, a couple of drivers sort of around half a second behind the driver in front, but other than that, there's not really much to report on at the moment. And again, 39 laps, where there's not really going to be too many overtaking opportunities, and again, only 1 DRS section. It could be those little crashes, those little catching of a wall and things like that could provide the entertainment and the opportunity to climb up the grid.
Yeah, I'm still on board with Veriduco at the moment, going out onto the long straight just after the pit straight, trying to close that gap on Quan desperately to get himself further up this leaderboard, and he's not managing to do so at the moment. It's been defended very well from Quan, and you've got to think in Monaco it doesn't take much to be able to defend quite well, because nowhere's really an overtaking spot apart from the pit straight, and even that's quite limited. But like you say, a lot of these cars, just as there was a lock-up going into that corner from Veriduco, a lot of these cars do actually have a distance over each other. As we jump on board with Danger David, nearly with an incident with Toxic then as well. Yeah. Toxic nearly ended up cutting the corner as a result of that, but he manages to Danger David manages to gain the position, move the Mercedes up into 5th place, Toxic down into 6th as it stands at the moment, following the way around the Monaco track, going on to the pit straight. Again, Toxic will have DRS. Quincy will also have DRS just behind them as well. But yeah, the distance between these drivers at the moment is quite... I mean, look at that, 7 seconds between Herman and Formula 1 Farah in the space of 6 laps, and one of those has had a safety car with it as well. Yeah,
he's absolutely flying ahead, mate. Just jumped on board with Quincy, who is one of the drivers that are within a second of the driver in front. I've just gone over that now. Trying to push Toxic for a second. Quite a lot of smoke there coming out of the back of Toxic's car. May have been just a bit too late on the brakes. Seems to be a lot of smoke coming out of his car. I don't know if that implies damage in this game or something, but there's a blue flag on track already, as Sir Ribbo has fell well behind. So yeah, a couple of drivers struggling, a couple of drivers out. I know you mentioned Pleasant Snake moving up the leaderboard, but still in 15th place. Yeah, I'm still on board with Quincy and Yeah, I mean, just in that the time I was speaking there, that's 6.5 seconds has now gone to 8.5 seconds. So they've been absolutely flying ahead. And I suppose the question might start to be, how many drivers will he have lapped by the time? Ooh! How many drivers will he have overtaken by the time we get to the end of that 39th lap? And Quincy making a big push on Toxic there. Fantastic driving. Toxic did seem to go quite wide on that last corner. Meant Quincy had to sort of cut a bit more inside than he probably would have planned if no one was there, but managed to keep it on track, managed to straighten up and just got ahead of him going into that first corner. So great driving from Quincy, moves up into 6th place. And other than that, there's not really too much to report. Just jumping down into 14th place, Tarkangino has pitted, which has allowed Skid Solo to move up into 15th place. And Toxic has now got a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings, so now really going to have to put the foot down to try and increase the gap between him and Tobalenzen, because as it stands, Toxic will be dropping down to 8. So, yeah, what do you think? When you look at sort of top 5, it's looking pretty comfortable at the moment.
Yeah, apart from Ivor, who is very close to Formula 1 Farah to taking 2nd place, it is looking quite close. As Veriduco is the car that I'm on board with at the moment. We just saw the Haas in the background there of Sir Ibo being lapped by 10th and 9th place respectively, so it doesn't look like it's going well for Sir Ibo in the Haas. His teammate, however, is up in the points in 10th place at the moment as Toxic makes his decision to go into the pits. A little bit wide there when Kwan, I thought he might have caught the wall, but he managed to just avoid it. DRS is now open from Veriduco as he goes up into 9th place after the pit of Toxic. They will both gain a position on that, and I think following them through as well might even be Peter Caspi. I think he's going to be a little bit too far behind, though, actually, the two Ferraris of Peter Caspi and DDB890. We do remain on board with Veriduca, but we will quickly move across to Ivor, who is in the battle for 2nd place at the moment. He's currently 7 tenths behind Formula 1 Farah, and that is currently within DRS as they come round through into the DRS detection zone of Sector 3. The only DRS zone that is offered here in Monaco is on the pit straight. It will start and finish on the pit straight with a sharp right turn at the very end of it, and you've got to make sure you're getting that corner absolutely right, otherwise you're going into the wall. These walls are not very forgiving at all. As we see the blue flag there for the Alpine of Tarkangino, we see Ivor and Formula 1 Farah cruise their way past, as Ivor's DRS wasn't quite enough there to keep him up to Formula 1 Farah, but he does remain 8 tenths behind and therefore still within DRS if the opportunity is to arise again. We are going to jump down to 12th place, maybe just in time to see the overtake of DDB890. Goes up onto the inside and there's a collision between the two Ferraris, and DDB890, who jumped just at the right time, goes into the wall after colliding with Peter Caspi, and I don't know if there's much damage from either of them. DDB890 has gone ahead and he's very close to the wall now. He looks like he's struggling with some of the turns, so we'll see if he does end up going into the pits. Zerobo in 17th place, he has pitted as well from last place. So we'll stay on board with DDB890 just to see if he does need to pit at the back of that. But it was very close between the two drivers. He's going to box and see if his teammate needs to box as well. Peter Caspi stays out there and gets that position back. But he's under a lot of pressure now from Skid Solo and from Pleasant Snake, who both managed to get past DDB890's. T-Brand's now in 14th. Tarkangino takes a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings of corner cutting as well. And that was entertainment from the two Ferraris, just to try and create something between themselves, as Pleasant Snake is just behind Peter Caspi now to get himself up into 11th place on these soft tyres. Continues his way through at the moment. There's a couple of cars all battling as it stands, and he goes up onto the outside on the hard tyres, sorry, not the soft tyres, on the hard tyres to get up into 11th place. Peter Caspi just pretty much gives that position up. So I don't know if you saw, did you see the collision between the two Ferraris? The last thing you need in Monaco is a collision between two drivers of the same team.
I was on board, mate, just behind, so of course I caught it, but I don't know why they did it, but just creating a bit of entertainment between themselves, I'm not sure. Who knows? But yeah, not ideal when, like you say, your teammate's the last thing you need.
Absolutely. Well, we're on board with Pleasant Snake, who now has a 17-second deficit to make up on Toxic, who of course has a 3-second time penalty as well. So let's jump back on board with Ivor. Through all that chaos that's just happened between the two Ferraris, he's managed to gain 2 tenths of a second on the Williams driver of Formula 1 Farah as he tries to close that gap even further. DDB890 now gets a 5-second time penalty for ignoring blue flags, and that could be where it becomes political and controversial if drivers don't allow other drivers through. Up in third place, heading round onto the pit straight now. We stay on board with the Aston Martin of Evo. He's going to have DRS, see if this is going to be a pit straight that's long enough to give him that overtaking opportunity of the Williams of Formula 1 Ferrari. They're now both nearly 12 seconds behind Herman, the current race leader. It's not quite long enough, and it means Formula 1 Ferrari will remain in second place as it stands at the moment. Still 6/10 behind though, so I know you predicted yourself that a couple of these drivers, I think you had RS012 on finishing on the podium as well, didn't you, at one point?
Yeah, I did, an Evo.
An Evo could still do that. He still is doing it at the moment in third place, but RS0121, of course, out through a DNF in the third lap. Racing Wheel 027 out in the third corner as we continue on board with Evo, now 4/10 behind. This is the closest we've actually got between any drivers, and this is the only two drivers that are actually within a second of each other.
Ooh.
There we go, over to you.
Formula 1 Ferrari coming out of the tunnel, very slow going round that sort of left right, coming out of the tunnel, and Evo had to be very, very, very quick on the brakes. I don't think there was contact, but it was very, very close. Evo hasn't pitted, so I'm going to assume he just managed to avoid the contact and wing damage, so I think they're okay. But yeah, Formula 1 Ferrari very slow going round that corner. Might have been claims of a brake test had Evo actually gone into the back of them, but no damage, and Formula 1 Ferrari has managed to just get away a little bit and regain the gap that he had 3 or 4 laps ago. Apologies, I've got hiccups there while I'm talking. Just looking up and down the leaderboard, there is not one driver now within a second of the driver in front, other than and there's been something. I was just very quickly going up the board. I don't know if Peter Caspi had some kind of issue. And Adam, breaking news, as we approach the second third of the race, it is raining in Monaco. What potential issues are we about to find as Veriduco pits and has already committed to the intermediate tyres?
Wow, this is where the strategies really come into play, and this is when I mentioned in qualifying as well just how difficult this is going to be for some of these drivers, because whilst you do have this rainy weather, you go into the intermediates, you go into the wet tyres, and regardless of what happens, when it comes to going under that bridge, you've still got a spell of dry tyres, dry weather, so those tyres aren't effective, so you've really got to be careful, otherwise your cars could just absolutely spin. We are on a VSC at the moment, we've got a lot of cars going into the pits, so I think almost anywhere we go at the moment, we're going to be on board with the car that's going into the pits. Looks like there could have been a bit of a collision there between Truckster and Danger David, who actually overtook Truckster going into the pits. I think Truckster went into the wall. Truckster's going back just in the pits, but I think coming out, Danger David will have that position back to his own. Herman has stayed out on track at the moment. Quincy going into the pits for the Red Bull. Tobble Ensign's going to do the same for the McLaren. I think it's just going to be straightforward now. This rain's just come down all of a sudden, and it's come down in force, hasn't it? There's no steady easing it in, is there? Oh, into the wall. Kwan's gone into the wall and into the pits. Is there something where you don't get damage going into the pits, going into the wall in the pits? I mean, that would have helped you massively in China.
It would have, mate, but we do have a virtual safety car, so there's clearly something happening there. Just jumped on board with Herman despite his lead, and Tarkan Gino gets a drive-through penalty, speeding under the VSC, frowned upon, but yeah, DRS is now disabled. I'm on board with Herman just to see how he gets round, and very lucky there to not find contact with the wall. VSC is gone, and Herman has got to be pitting now. He is, yeah. Those last couple of corners there.
We're on a safety car.
Very twitchy, and we do, as you say, have a full safety car as Quincy retires from the race. He's bowed out, he's stepped down, he's had enough, he's sick of the rain in Monaco, he's off indoors to spend some money in the casino, but yeah.
Here's your plan of getting a cup of tea, didn't he? We've got loads of penalties going on, everything's just gone mad.
Everyone's speeding, mate. They don't know what they're doing.
Quick, get an umbrella. They're all running for an umbrella. That's it. DDB890 spun, hit the wall, and he's now out. So he will go down to 17th place when Sir Ibo decides to unlap himself for the 14 laps that he's been lapped for already. Quincy will then fall down with his DNF down into 16th place. So we're only now 2 cars away from being the exact prediction that you had, and we're getting towards halfway through this race. So has your prediction for the top 3 changed at all?
Well, it's got to, mate, considering RS was one of them, and he's currently 18th place on a DNF. So, yeah, Danger David, why not? Get him up there. He's climbed up to 4th place. He thrives on the chaos. So, fuck it, let's go Danger David, completing the top 3. Just looking, I don't know why I'm looking up and down the leaderboard for potential overtake opportunities, because there's a safety car, so we're not getting any yet. But it's raining, Aggie. We're not even halfway through the race. We've already lost now 4 drivers. This is our first full safety car, but we have had a virtual safety car as well. We've had damage, we've had drivers in the wall, we've had people clipping each other. I mean, we wanted chaos, and I think we're on the verge of getting chaos, aren't we?
We did? We wanted chaos? Did we?
Yeah, I'm assuming so, chaos, mate. The races are always better watching and better to commentate on when there's chaos in there.
Yeah, that's what they'll always tell you. Yeah, no, I mean, for me, it's just a case of Serbo's going onto wet tyres now, so I don't know if he's anticipating this rain to go a little bit longer and maybe him be able to capitalise when everyone else goes into the pits for those wet tyres, and that could be quite a good shout, as Quan now gets a drive-through penalty for speeding under the safety car. I think as it stands at the moment, Pleasant Snake could get himself onto the podium. What's your thoughts of his chances, considering 4 drivers ahead of him all have drive-through penalties now?
Yeah, he's going to be thriving on it once his safety car comes in, surely.
That your word of the day, thrive?
Thrive, yeah.
Yeah, I can tell you're a big fan of it today. Subo hasn't yet unlapped himself from Quincy, but we're given that opportunity to do so, as Herman has caught up with the safety car, and I think loads of the cars will be doing the same. So it's all about the restart now for Formula 1 Fara, but you can't take any risks going into the first couple of corners, can you?
No, absolutely not. And Aggie, I've just sent you a screenshot with the Tottenham score. Not that we're here to talk about football, but I just want to make you aware of it.
Oh, mate, that score's laughable. Right, so we're going to go with Herman in first place at the moment under the safety car. Formula 1 Fara in second, Ivor third, Danger David in fourth, Trugster in fifth, Toxic in 6th, Quan in 7th, Veriduco in 8th, Tobalenzen in 9th, Pleasant Snake in 10th, T-Bran in 11th, Peter Caspi in 12th, Talking Gino 13th, Skid Solo 14th, and Sir Ibo, he's sat in 16th at the moment, but that's only for a short amount of time. He will move up into 15th place momentarily. I'm not quite sure how this works through the game. I'm not sure if they're going to allow the cars that are lapped to unlap themselves. What's the thoughts there?
I'm not really sure, mate, to be fair. Like you said, I'm also not sure how it works, but yeah, not 100% sure.
Excellent, thanks for the input. Tarkin Jr. now gets a 10-second time penalty.
You can't say you don't know and then expect me to know. I don't know.
Okay, it is what it is. We'll carry on. Yeah, because obviously there's been a lot of controversy in the past about drivers being able to unlap themselves and that kind of stuff, but I think it's the Alfa Romeo of T-Brand that's actually separating at the moment. I don't know if T-Brand's just going to move to the side and let Formula 1 Fara through. No, he's not. Formula 1 Fara obviously isn't allowed past him either. So that could be the game changer. I know obviously in wet weather it's a game changer in itself, but if Formula 1 Fara can't get to Herman within the first couple of laps, we know what Herman's like. He could be, in a different postcode by that point, couldn't he? Yeah,
definitely, mate. I mean, he was... I know, obviously, drivers had pitted and things like that, but he was close to 40 seconds ahead when he was going into the pit, so it was very comfortable. It's got to be frustrating from his perspective. Obviously, you drive like a Formula 1 Fara, your Evos, your Danger Davids, are going to be really happy with this opportunity that's being presented, but someone like Herman that's just been really comfortable for that first 13, 14 laps, got that big lead like we said. I know the rain will obviously chuck some anomalies in there with a change of strategy, but it's got to be quite frustrating to see something like that way further down the track, nothing that you're in control of or involved with, completely mess up all the hard work that you put into it at that point.
Well, Trugster did pit. and Kwan is now in the pits. He's still in 10th place as it stands at the moment, though, which means, just like you'd expect in Monaco, despite the order in which the cars are making their way around the track, that's not necessarily the order of the standings, as Kwan is about to catch up to the back of the grid, and he is in 10th place out of 15 cars. So the safety car is in this lap. We'll have at least 23 laps of racing. 23 laps of racing, depending on if we get to see another safety car. But here's the rain, and we'll get to see just how much of an impact that will have. Herman will be slowing down the pack. He will be the pace setter as soon as he makes it round onto the pit straight, and it's just how long it's going to take for T-Bran to move out of the way as he spins ever so slightly, and that gives a bit more of an advantage to Herman as we are back underway. And we'll just jump on board with Formula 1 Forest, see how long it takes him to get past T-Bran. And he's been told straight away to go past him, and he's done that, and he's almost gone into the wall. He has hit the wall. I don't know if there's any damage there, but he's going to cross to the other side. He's just sliding across the track. So that could be very costly for Formula 1 Fara. As Danger David gets past Ivor, but as Formula 1 Fara goes past T-Bran, it proves very costly for him as he's slipping and sliding from side to side. I don't know just how much damage his car's taken from that, but he's collided with both sides of the track on the first corner of the restart. In fact, I think it was a straight. I don't think it was even a corner that he managed to collide on. As we jump on board right now with... There's nobody really that's close to overtaking, is there? So we'll jump back on board with Formula 1 Fara just to see how he's managing with his grip of the tyres. That's the thing when you drop onto wet tyres, isn't it, or intermediate tyres during a safety car. You don't really have that opportunity to try and get the heat back in those tyres, do you?
Yeah, I was on board with Evo then as it was restarting. You know, always like to sort of drop a couple of drivers behind to get a bit of a fuller view, and he slowed right down and just let Danger David pass without any real attempt. Like, he slowed right down. I'm not really sure. I don't know if there was a bit of a misunderstanding or... yeah, I'm just trying to work it. Excuse me.
Well, Suribo is going slow through sector 2 at the moment. He's just allowed a couple of more cars to pass. He's currently 2 minutes behind Tarcangino as it stands at the moment, which tells you that he's just doing this at the moment either for the fun of it or because he wants to practice this track. And I do not blame him for trying to practice this track. I also feel that it's a track that I will never get good at, so I'm probably going to be wasting my time if I did that. We'll jump on board with Skid Solo just behind Peter Caspi at the moment. The closest we've got to a driver overtake is the Aston Martin challenging the Ferrari, going through sector 1 at the minute, just at the end of the DRS zone. Bear in mind that due to the amount of rain, the heavy amount of rain, there is no DRS at the moment. We are coming up to what I believe is an incident here with one of the Williams drivers. He looks like he's got himself back on track at the moment, and I think that is Kwan. A little bit further ahead is Formula 1 Fara, I think, around a couple of corners. It's very difficult to tell at the moment where everybody is in terms of positioning. It's not quite as easy as just saying they're there, you know where they are, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does, mate. I'm just up and down the grid trying to find something that's going off at the minute, and to be perfectly honest with you, there's not a lot. As you can see yourself, there's a very, very healthy gap between every single driver. Herman already 8 seconds ahead of Formula 1 Farah just off the back of the first lap, so seems rather determined to regain that very comfortable position that he was in before that safety car. But you've got T-Bran over a minute behind Pleasant Snake in ninth, although that has just dropped to 40 seconds, so I don't know if Pleasant Snake had an issue or something, but there was about 20 seconds that dropped off that in an instant. But Pleasant Snake looks to be relatively comfortable, so I'm not sure what happened there. Cerebo 2 minutes behind, 14th place, so really rough race for Cerebo so far today in Monaco. But yeah, up and down the track, Danger David may be looking at making a push on Formula 1 Farah to get that second place and a 1-2 for Mercedes, but I think you've got to assume that if he's going to be in a position to overtake, we've got another safety car, mate. Skid Solo's out.
Yeah, I've been on board with him throughout the entirety of that. As I mentioned, he was looking for an overtake on Kwan, and going through the first corner, he found the wall instead of the overtake button, and it's absolutely broken his car into 1,000 different pieces. The good news for him is he's going to finish 14th because Ibo is still in qualifying. He's that far behind. He's currently down in 15th, 1 minute 57 seconds behind all the rest. So Still a long way to go. I mean, you can get points just for finishing this race here as well, can't you? Skid Solo has left the session out of frustration for what's just happened there, but Formula 1 Faro will get another chance at Herman when this safety car is gone. So, Herman remains the leader, gains 7 seconds in 3 laps. We said there's going to be plenty of safety cars, didn't we, as well? And Formula 1 Faro has now gone into the pit, so this could be an interesting strategy. Don't know what Danger David's going to do. He's going to probably follow through and go into second place. He has done. So it's currently a Mercedes 1-2, and that was an opportunity maybe for Formula 1 Faro. Now he's taken some damage, that's what it'll be. So he's caught the wings whilst he was going into the walls, as I mentioned before. And he's now made his way back out, but he's still spinning and skidding whilst he's making his way out of the pit. So it's difficult, especially with all assists off. You can imagine how difficult it is to get yourself out of the pits, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. We saw it in qualifying. Was it? Yeah, qualifying. I think it was Trugster who's just got a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane, very nearly having a collision with who I think was Nate Danger David, who has got second place now. Just having a look for one. Farah, I must have missed that. Not sure what happened, if he pitted or what, but yeah, we're now on to a T-ban.
What is the limit on how many drive-through penalties you can actually get? Because I'm pretty sure we are on quite a few for quite a few of these drivers. Because you get 3 laps, don't you, to be able to serve them?
Yeah.
And we haven't had 3 laps. So we've got Tobalenz, T-Bran's just got 2 drive-throughs back-to-back.
Love that. Maybe there is no limit.
For speeding under the safety car. So he's got 2 drive-throughs to now serve. And I assume that means he can't just serve them both back-to-back, can he? He's got to, you know... Does he get 6 laps to do that? Can he try and make the time back from one of those? I don't know how that would work.
Not sure. Maybe he can just drive through, go round, drive through.
Interesting. Well, Servo is now up into 14th place as a result of Skid Solo's retirement. We are now on 5 out of the possible 6 retirements that you mentioned earlier that you think we're going to get. We still do have quite a few penalties going on. We've got 13 seconds for Tarkangino. We've got a drive-through for T-Brand, 5 seconds for Trugster, a drive-through for Tobalenzin, and 3 seconds for Toxic. So the unpredictable just seems to continue. It's going to be interesting at the front when things get back underway with Herman and Danger David. Of course, I mentioned Herman would finish first, Danger David second. I said Pleasant Snake in third. He's currently down in 8th place. So, you know, anything could happen with the way this race is going, doesn't it?
Yeah, climbed up massive, mate. Was right towards the back, not long before the previous safety car. So, yeah, like I said, anything can happen. A couple more collisions, a couple more safety cars, and it could be right up there. So, yeah, it definitely has a chance.
Certainly, and still a long way to go. We're into the second half of this race. 18 laps left to go, and nearly into the wall goes Formula 1 Faro, who is now down in 4th place. Despite the safety car coming out whilst he was in second, his pit stop for the pressure intermediate tyres, which you'll hope will see him through to the end of this race. Seen him fall into 4th place. Gives 3rd place to Ivor. We do have the 2 Alpha Tauris down in 8th and 9th of Pleasant Snake and Trugster, but Trugster has just gone into the pits. I'm not sure just how long we'll have before the safety car decides to go in. It was quite a bad accident, so we'll just have to wait and see. 1 minute 57 is Sirbo's distance now to Quan. He's starting to fall further and further back. This rainy weather is just going to make it more chaotic, isn't it, throughout the course of this race? How long do you think that maybe intermediate tyres can last? There's got to be another pit stop for a lot of these drivers at some point, hasn't there?
Not necessarily. I think your intermediates and wets tend to last quite a long time, don't they? So, would there be a need to pit again if it's just a case of changing tyres?
Well, I mean, we've got 17 laps left, and other than Formula 1 Faro, the top 5 all have laps that are 9 and 10 laps old, tyres that are 9 and 10 laps old. So you're looking at them making them intermediate tyres last 27 laps, which is, in a 50% race, I think that's a bit too optimistic to be looking at, isn't it? And if you can keep yourself quite close to these drivers, that might have been a tactical masterclass from Formula 1 Faro, just to keep himself... I know he's taken the hit now and he's lost track position, but, you know, if he can keep himself close or thereabouts, when all those drivers decide to pit, that could really bump him back up the positioning.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm just thinking now, because obviously when it's a wet race, you're not required to make a pit stop. Obviously, a lot will, but I don't know. I think I'd be surprised if the drivers pit again, personally.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. Of course, we've only got. By the time the safety car goes in, I think it'll be around about 15 laps left. I think the safety car normally tells us. There it is. Safety car normally tells us around now when they are headed in, and it is now. So we will have 16 laps of racing left as we'll jump on board with second place Danger David. We will just see his teammate, the pace setter Herman, out in first place at the moment. So the two Mercedes are back to familiar territory in a 1-2 position.
Very quickly, Adam. Danger David, you're the teammate of Herman in front. Do you make a push to get first place now, while you've got the chance?
Yes, you're still in with a shout of the Drivers' Championship. As long as it's nothing clumsy, it's going to cost you both the race. Absolutely, you've got to go for it. And we're back underway, and he absolutely hasn't gone for it. 1.2 seconds is the distance quite quickly, and we'll jump on board with Formula 1 Faro, who's only a tenth behind Evo at the moment. He is putting the pressure on those new pressure and maybe even cooler tyres. At the moment, of course, all the other drivers, and he's nearly gone into the back of Ivor as well. Very close between them two. We saw this as a flip reverse earlier on in a battle for second place, where it was actually Ivor that nearly went into the back of Formula 1 Farah. And I think you've got to brake a little bit sooner, haven't you, in the wet weather, just to stop yourself from going into the back of the other car. And we've got a yellow flag that's quickly disappeared. Formula 1 Farah does remain in fourth place, though, and he's very close to Ivor. The thing is, as we've seen plenty of times throughout this race, the slight error, whatever position you're in, the slight error could absolutely ruin your race and make this anybody's race, really, couldn't it?
Yeah, it was Evo space. Back end kicks out then coming out of the tunnel. There's obviously no DRS currently, so Formula 1 Farah isn't going to benefit from that going down that pit straight. His cars are spitting out. It's going to take some phenomenal car control here from the drivers to avoid the wall. As we know, it's a very narrow track. There's no wiggle room, as you might say. It is very unforgiving. So Pleasant Snake are now up into 7th, and within half a second, and potentially got a shot here at Veriduco. He could continue moving up. I know had him for that podium spot. And if he can get past Veriduco here, going into the first corner, in with a fantastic chance.
I do, mate, and I'm sorry, I know we've not done this before, but yeah, you're going to have to take this, because my screen keeps on blinking. It keeps coming on and then going off, so it's very intermittent for me at the moment. I have no idea what's going on. It's on at the moment, but it seems to be very temperamental. I'm on board with Formula 1 Farah, still going. You tell me what you've seen.
I was on board with Pleasant Snake and Veriduco. Again, I would just mention that fantastic car control that you're going to have. And he did just that. The car looked like it was about to spin on the first corner, managed to keep it on the track and also keep his current position of 6th place. So yeah, very, very close.
What are your thoughts on Kwan going in for the soft tyres? He seems to be pitting again now. I don't know if that's an error where they were supposed to put him on a different kind of tyres and they haven't, but he's gone in for softs and he's gone in again now. We'll see what he comes out onto. So Iribo's gone into the pits again. He was on wets at one point.
Softs is bold. I mean, it is drying up, but I think it is still raining and the track is very wet, so definitely not in a position to be putting dry tyres on just yet.
There we go. So he's gone back in onto intermediate tyres and still out there on wet tyres at the moment is the person currently at the back of the grid. That is Ibo in the Haas. I'm very temperamental with what I'm seeing at the moment. I've seen a yellow flag that is up somewhere in Sector 1. I'm not quite sure who that is with, but we're on with Formula 1 Farah at the moment in 4th place, closing that gap on Evil. He's been very close since the second restart of this race after the safety car.
It's Sir Ibo going quite slow around the track. That's causing the yellow flag. I'm not really sure what he's doing.
I wish I could tell you, but I've absolutely no idea. My screen's gone off. It's completely gone.
Hello, can you hear me?
During this race, I can hear you.
Aggie?
But yeah, don't be silly. The screen's gone, not the stream.
Right. So we've got again nobody really within an overtaking opportunity. Pleasant Snake still within a second of Veriduco, going out the coming out of the tunnel now, and this is where a lot of drivers have really struggled to keep the car in control. Verdugo drifting around the corners, and again, almost spun. Really opened the door now for Pleasant Snake. Pleasant Snake's out! And I'm not really sure what he's doing there. He had a clear path down the left-hand side to overtake Verdugo, and for some reason decided to move to the right side of the track to go back in behind him, and did not see where the wall sort of sticks out. Loses his front right tyre, and Pleasant Snake is out the race, and we have yet another safety car. The rain now gone, and cars drying up. Truckster is on hards, the only one as it stands on a dry tyre. Verdugo is now in the pits after what should have been a drop down to 7th place, and is going on to soft tyres. So this now looks to be the time where drivers will move back onto the dry tyres, as we only have 12 drivers remaining. Aggie, are you back with us?
I'm not at the moment. It's completely gone. I'm hoping to get something sorted.
Herman, still in first place again. Really got a big gap ahead of his teammate Danger David, but just that hard work undone again. Danger David will have another opportunity at getting that first place spot. Aggie, back with us? No, still not back with us. It is just Skin. Luckily, you have got me. Hopefully, Aggie will be back with us very soon. Herman now going into the pits, as I'm sure every other driver will be that is not on a dry tyre yet, and he will be going on to softs. Hopefully, you would assume will last the last 13 or so laps of the race, especially when the next 2 or 3 will be under the safety car. Formula 1 Farah also pitting and has managed to get ahead of Danger David. I'm not really sure. I think he's serving a time penalty, so has dropped down into 4th place. Aggie, are you back with us at all?
Yes, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
He's still not back. I will drop him a message, see how he's getting on. Not really sure what's happening there. Sir Ebo having an absolute shocker of a race, but is still in, and it could be on track. He has stayed out on the full wets, not even intermediates, full wets for some reason, but as it stands, could probably get points, and also the worst performance of someone that's got points in Monaco, but by process of elimination, it could end up with points, but I don't think it will if he stays on these full wet tyres much longer. Aggie has left the party, and I'll just let you know I could hear him. I was just winding him up, and I'll reveal that when he rejoins. Full safety car, not really anything to discuss at the moment. For those of you that are watching, for those of you that are just joining, it is currently just me at the moment. It is a full safety car for I think the 3rd or 4th time. So yeah, just trying to find out where Aggie is. Just going to message him now. Nothing to report on as it stands. Still got a safety car coming up to the final 10 laps of the race. Aggie is the expert here, because I don't know what to say. Vroom, vroom. I'll say that. Vroom, vroom. Bam, 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 bam. one person that's watching, say hello in the comments. This is what happens when I'm left to it. It's not good for anybody, is it? Hey, Quincy. Sorry, mate. This is what happens when Aggie's telling me he's in the party with me, but he's not. So this is what happens when someone riddled with ADHD is left to it, and the attention span of... I'm jealous of a goldfish's attention span, to be honest, but here we go. Safety car. We still got a safety car? Yep. Just on board with Toxic now. Meow. Fucking meow. Rapid. Let's see if we can fix old Aggie here. Safety car is in this lap. Here we go. We're on board with Toxic in third place. Danger David down in fourth. Will Formula 1 Farrows manage to get back up to second place, take a lunge? Will Toxic in third place, not seen him up this high on the grid for a while, will he get comfortable and try and secure a podium spot? Or will he go all in? Herman controlling the grid as we go back onto the pit straight. Aggie has rejoined. Aggie, are you with us?
I am, yes. Can you hear me?
I can, mate. I could hear you before, but you didn't think I could, so you left. Brilliant.
Because you kept on repeating yourself after I said, can you hear me? No, right, I'm back. Yes, okay. So I'm assume, thankfully, all I've missed is the safety car in the final 9 laps of the race at the moment. Apologies, there has been some technical issues either on my stream or my voice appearing on Skin Stream, but we seem to be all sorted. We seem to be back underway.
I could hear you, mate. I was winding you up.
Yeah, well, thanks for that. All that time, all that messing about, and you could hear me anyway. Well, Formula 1 Farrows up into second place. The rain has disappeared. The medium tyres should hopefully see him through to the end of this race, but how much will that impact his chances of taking top step of the podium away from the Mercedes of Herman? In third place is Toxic CZ10, and then we've got Danger David down in fourth place. We almost have as many cars finishing this race as we have not finishing this race, after Pleasant Snake was the latest one to get a DNF under the intermediate tyres. We have lost him, Skid Solo, Quincy, DDB890, RSO121, Racing Wheel and T-Brand throughout the course of this race. And now we are back to the sunshine that Monaco gives us. We might not see another safety car until the end, which means Skin will have got it absolutely right when he said...
pitting? Oh my god! Oh. No words, carry on.
No words, don't interrupt me then. I'm in the middle of talking.
Just
don't interrupt me to say no words.
Carry on.
Farrows in second place in the Williams. I am still talking, and he nearly caught the back end of his car into the wall as he's following through a lock up there from Herman, keeping the competition very, very close. Only a couple of laps left before we get to see the introduction of DRS. 1.5 seconds separates first from second place. Danger David managing to get past Toxic, who went into the pits, but now has a 3-second time penalty of his own, which means, as it stands at the moment, he will fall down into fourth place either, and the Aston Martin will jump up into third place. 1.3 seconds now separates Formula 1 Farah at the moment into Herman, who's in first place. As it stands, we'll jump down further to where Veriduco is defending from Toxic, going under the tunnel. As it stands, coming out at the other side, going up onto the inside. We had a little bit of a look there, did Toxic, but he decided to heel and allow Verdugo to continue his way through. That is actually the closest we've got to any overtakes as Herman, so it's a 1 minute 12.307, which is the new fastest lap, as DRS has now been enabled, and we could very well see this from Toxic round onto the pit straight just behind Verdugo. We're going to see if he's managed to get it just in time, and he has not on this occasion, so we'll get to see if that takes into effect from the next lap as well on the pit straight. I think it will go from there.
Sorry.
No, you tell us.
Some contact was on board with Toxic there, him and Verdugo, neck and neck going down the pit straight, and a bit of contact. It did look like Toxic hit the wall, but did still then manage to complete the overtake, so I'm not sure if he got left wing damage maybe. It was the left side of his car that looked like it might have clipped the guardrail, but may be okay. We'll see when they complete this lap if he has to pit again, but like I said, did manage to complete the overtake, so he may be fine. But yeah, Toxic overtakes Verdugo to go back into 7th place.
Okay, so as it stands at the moment, the closest we've got is still Verdugo, but it's close between them and Evil battling Danger David up for 4th place. Danger David now Evil doesn't have to worry about getting past Danger David as long as he remains within 3 seconds of it. We are now on lap 33 of 39 of this Monaco Grand Prix, as Evil gets himself round onto the pit straight. Just ahead of him is Danger David in the Mercedes. The chance of Mercedes getting a 1st and 3rd place, it looks like it is going out of the window. But Skinner, I will just tell you the current standings for the drivers and the constructors, so you can make a decision yourself on just how much you think this is going to impact it. Right, so at the moment, the current Drivers' Championship leader is Herman, unsurprisingly, on 409 points so far. Pleasant Snake in 2nd on 256. Obviously, that will change the difference between him and Herman come the end of this race. RSO121 in 3rd place, also out of this race. This is a huge chance for Danger David, who is currently down in 4th place. 5th place, Spain Perez, D. Perez, he's not racing today. T-Bran, who's in 6th place, he is out of the race. Quan now is out of the race, who's in 11th place as well. Yeah. This is a great chance for the Mercedes, with them being 1st and 4th in the championship, and them being the only 2 drivers to actually get points of the top 6.
Yeah, it's massive implications for the drivers and the constructors championship. Like you said, Quan has just gone out there, which means Sir Ribbo will go up into 11th place and continues in his quest to get points in the worst ever Monaco performance. Now will be up into 11th place. But looking up and down the track, there's more penalties here than a Harry Kane England scoring chart. It's been a day, and Sir Ribbo, to his credit, is one of only 4 drivers that currently doesn't have a penalty, joining the Tobalenz and Formula 1 Farah and Herman in 5th place. But yeah, it says it all when Herman's right up there for the championship, and technically isn't a part of the league, or on an official basis anyway. So surely, if he does manage to secure the championship, he should be awarded a permanent place on a Monday. What do you think?
I absolutely agree, and what will help is that Mercedes are currently 243 points ahead of Red Bull. Neither Red Bull are finishing this race. They are 272 points ahead of the Alfa Romeo. Only Toxic is finishing this race. They are 276 points ahead of the Alfa Tauri. Only one of them is set to finish this race. That's Trugster in 6th place. So for constructors, for drivers, you know, it might be a 1st and 3rd place, or maybe even a 1st and 4th. I know Evo's got a penalty now, which might actually gift it a bit better to Danger David, but you know, otherwise it looks pretty much set, doesn't it? It's in their favour, as Trugster is trying to get past Tobalenz. A little bit of a battle going on there at the moment. Tobalenz doing his best to keep 5th place in the solo McLaren of today's race, and he's done that quite well. But of course Trugster does have a penalty there as well, which might mean even if he does overtake, all Tobalenz has to do is stay close to him, and it looks like close to a collision there, and I think Trugster's just got past him, and he has done, going up into the next corner. It's forced Tobalenz to have to sit behind him in the next couple of corners. But yeah, there's your Drivers' Championship, there's your Constructors' Championship being looked at, and with no Herman next week, you know, the more points for Danger David this week, the better.
100%, mate, 100%. Again, a great opportunity with, as you mentioned earlier, the drivers that currently aren't in the race, that either through they just aren't available this week, or they're out of the race, or they're quite far down the grid. So yeah, an amazing opportunity. Just looking up and down the grid now, again we're down to a final 11 drivers, only a couple within a second of the driver in front, two, sorry, Verdugo in 8th, who I'm currently on board with, and Tarcangino in 9th place as well, but again, neither in a position where they're imminently going to be making an overtake attempt. Let's talk about Herman again. I think it's only fair as we approach the last couple of laps of the race. He's got ahead, he's been pulled back because of safety cars, he's got ahead, he's been pulled back because of safety cars, he's had 2 laps where he can get ahead and he's been 8 seconds ahead and pulled back. And again, the safety car's only been in for a couple of laps and he's already over 7 seconds ahead. Just incredible driving from a driver that has come out of nowhere and really put the cat amongst the pigeons, as they say, in this league.
Absolutely. Well, while we just come up towards the final couple of laps, I think now's the right time for me to ask you who your driver of the day is.
It's got to be Herman. I know he's not gained positions as such, and I do like to lean towards what those that have started midfield and got a podium, or started towards the back and got into sort of a top 8 or a top 6. But I just think with the amount of safety cars we've had today and the amount of gaps that Herman's had at each one, I would have loved to have seen how much he would have won this race by if we'd have not had a safety car. He's been dominant, phenomenal driver, as I mentioned a minute ago. It'd be wrong of me to give it to anyone else. Have you got anyone different, or do you agree with what I just said?
I agree. I think it's been a dominant performance from Herman. I would like to give a shout out to a couple of drivers. Tobalenzen had a struggle, but he's managed to get himself up into 6th place. I want to give a shout out to Sir Ibo. Now, I know he's a country mile behind everybody, but I think in Monaco, to have that sort of patience, to be able to outlast many other cars. I know he's only going to get points because he's finished a race, and I think anybody who finishes in Monaco deserves points anyway. But I think to have that patience and that sort of steady hand about you, to be able to just accept cars are going past you, but your time will come to overtake a couple that have been knocked out. I think Serbo deserves an honorary mention just for being able to stick by it till the end when things aren't really going his way. What do you think?
Yeah. Oh, Danger David. Sorry, I have to completely move past your question, but Danger David there just spat out. Almost went into the wall out of absolutely nowhere, under no pressure whatsoever, but just by the finest of margins, managed to get it back on track. So and it doesn't look like he's going to lose that podium spot either. But yeah, no, I completely agree with what you said. You credit where credit's due. I know the distance between each driver has been nearly 2 minutes at times, but while a lot of drivers have gone out, it's managed somehow to look like he's going to finish with 11th place.
There we go then. So we are almost ready for the final lap of the race to be started. We will jump on board with Herman as he prepares to go round. Oh, we've just got a collision there. An incident in the back. There's Toxic that leaves the race as well. So Saribo moves himself up to a top 10 finish. And he deserves it just for being patient throughout the course of this race. So, starting the final lap, Skin, are you taking it away?
You take it away, mate, because my controller's just disconnected, so I'm just getting set back up. But Serbo, unbelievable. My only question would be how many times he's been lapped and if he's got enough time to regain that to officially get into 10th spot. But now, you take it away, mate. Herman on his final lap of the race.
Well, here we go then. 3 races in the Mercedes before this, 4 now including today. This will be his 4th win. Not only in the Mercedes, but it will also be 3 wins back-to-back for the Mercedes as he closes the gap on the Drivers' Championship. He also closes the gap on the Constructors with his teammates in 3rd place at the moment. It's been a dominant display from start to finish. As Mr. Irrelevant was left without a team, he's now become Mr. Consistency as he makes his way through the tunnel of Monaco, the final couple of corners. His talent throughout this season has been unparalleled and unmatched by many different drivers that have tried and failed to keep up with the pace that Herman tends to set. Only on a couple of occasions has he not started on the front row of the grid. But regardless, he manages to finish on the top step of the podium. He will finish today's race the same place in which he started, and that is first. It is Herman that takes the checkered flag in Monaco, in the Mercedes, followed by Formula One Farah, who has fought valiantly and fallen many places throughout the course of this race, but regardless has managed to get himself second place and proven that to an extent he can battle with the best that the All Assist Soft League has to offer. Then Danger David takes third place in the Mercedes, followed shortly behind by Ivor in fourth in the Aston Martin. Truxter will then make his way around the last couple of corners in the Alpha Tauri to get himself into fifth place. Tobelenzen will then follow shortly behind in sixth, and by shortly I mean he's still a good couple of corners behind. Despite the penalties, Truxter will hold on to fifth place, but the solo McLaren of Tobelenzen has really done his team proud today, going through the final couple of corners onto the pit straight to finish in sixth place. Verdugo in the Haas will then take seventh place as he's been battling with Tarkan Gino, but I think there'll just be enough for the Haas to keep seventh, and the Alpine will follow very shortly after in eighth place. Peter Caspi then in ninth, making his way round, will not get a chance to finish. But that is the race concluded. Herman with yet another race win. He's not racing next weekend, so the rest of the grid is opened up to drivers like Sandman, like RS0121 and Pleasant Snake, who officially on this game got driver of the day despite not actually finishing the race. But that concludes the Monaco Grand Prix. There will be no driver interviews, no post-race interviews on this occasion, as they had a couple of technical issues throughout the course of this race. Hopefully the coverage has managed to stay with you. It's been great to be back, and of course we'll be back next Monday with race number 6 of season 12 of the All Assist Soft League. Skin, once again, thank you very much for joining me. I don't know if you can hear me. I don't know if you can answer. I know you said your pad's gone dead, so we will leave it there.
That's fine. I'm back, mate. I'm back.
There you go. I'll let you sign us off.
Bye.